Hi, Brett. What do you got for us today?
Andrew, it's been a while. I hear Brad all the time, but how you doing, Andrew?
Great, great. What do you got for us, Brett?
Good. I've got a question I've been pondering for a long time when people ask me
Yeah.
about the fact that the old man was crucified with Christ on the cross 2005, 25 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
How do I apply that 2,000 years later when I get saved or they get saved? How do I explain to them that your old man's dead, even though you're asking God to forgive you and make you new? How do we practically apply that in understanding, please?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think the simple answer is that your old self does not die until salvation. So I think that clears it up. In other words, you and I, Brett, should not be running around planet Earth telling people that we're 2,000 years old because our old self died with Christ. You're not 2,000 years old, and thank God I'm not 2,000 years old. I'd be exhausted. Plus, I'd probably need some major skin care. But seriously, Brett, I mean, I'm not 2,000 years old, and neither are you. And the point being that you participated in the resurrection, didn't you? I mean, Ephesians says you were raised up with Christ also. But when were you born again? You were born again 10 years ago, or 20, or 30, but not 2,000. I was born again when I was 8 years old. So I guess that's, what was I? It was 40-some years ago. So it wasn't 2,000 years ago. It was 40 years ago. And the point is that we can talk in sensible and reasonable and easy to understand terms. Nobody listening to this program is 2,000 years old. And so when we say we were crucified, buried, and raised with Christ, when did that happen? It happened at the moment of salvation. So it sounds like to me that maybe in your mind you had two different ideas. You had, well, at salvation I got forgiveness, but I was crucified with Christ 2,000 years ago. And so you had this disconnect, this confusing notion. What I'm saying is it doesn't have to be confusing. It is a simple truth that at salvation, you remember when you called upon the name of the Lord to be saved, whether that was 20 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever. At that moment, you were crucified, buried, raised, and forgiven. Let me say that again. At that moment, when you were born again, you were crucified, buried, raised, and forgiven. It all happened at the same time. You were washed, you were justified, you were sanctified. It all happened at the same time, according to 1 Corinthians 6. So even though we talk about being crucified with Christ, we're talking about what he did to us when we believed. We're talking about being inserted into Christ, and then we get a new past. We get a new spiritual past that is actually what Jesus accomplished. So it's not about being 2,000 years old. I was born in 1972, and I did not exist before that. And then I was born again right around 1980. But you know what? At that moment, I was crucified, buried, raised, and forgiven. So I hope that brings it all back together for you there, my friend. I'll put you back on and see, Brett. Does that make sense of it?
Andrew, that's a great explanation, and I understand it in that aspect of people I've talked to say, where does it say that?
Okay.
You know, they want to see that when you're born again, all of a sudden your old man dies, you get a newly constructed.
Sure.
You know,
yeah. All right. Well, it says it all over the place. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. So if you're not in Christ, you're not a new creature. So, you know, if it says, if anyone is in Christ. So at the moment you're put in Christ, that's the moment you become a new creature. You know, how did you receive the Spirit? By hearing with faith, Paul says in Galatians. You know, it's just about being saved. I mean, the old man is not saved. And you aren't saved before you put faith in Christ. So For those who don't have it right, for these friends that you're talking about, I mean, I got to say it. I mean, it's just common sense. First of all, you look at them and they're not 2,000 years old. Second of all, they're not. Hopefully, they're not believing in the Mormon heresy, the pre-existence of souls. No, we show up on the planet when we're born, and then we're born again. So we're born of water, that is, born of mom in a sack of water, and then we're born again, born of the Spirit. And so at salvation, at the born again experience, we are taken out of Adam, we are put in Christ. At that moment, we are crucified, buried, and raised. There's not one single verse that says we're 2,000 years old, and there's not one single verse that says we pre-existed before our natural birth. So it's quite a stretch for somebody to be saying that stuff. It sounds like they're living in La La Land or something. They have no memories of existing before age 0, and they shouldn't be believing that nonsense. So the born-again experience causes us to be crucified, buried, and raised, and forgiven. It all happens when we receive Christ, and we're put in Him. When we're put in Him, we're put in His death, and we're put in His resurrection. That's what Romans 6 is saying. You'll notice, Brett, that it says you were baptized into His death and baptized into His burial and baptized into His resurrection. That's talking about a spiritual baptism, a spiritual insertion and immersion. And, that didn't happen 2,000 years ago. That happened during your life when you believed. So thanks for your call. It's a good one. Reach out to us again anytime.